My name is Hans Morris from German National Public Radio ARD. I'd like to ask Mike Carey, what is it, the fascination with zombie movies and monster movies? I mean, there are whole TV series about it, tons of movies about it, and it's especially in light of the fact that we have real monster movies happening every day, from Syria, where people are dying, from Aleppo to Damascus. And last year, 12,000 people killed by Ebola. And I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of an Ebola victim. Comes very close to a monster movie. So how do you explain the fascination we have with these movies? Is it because we live in an ivory tower and ignore the real world outside, or is there something else? Thank you.
I think it's almost the opposite of that. I think the obsession with zombies. Well, I think if I can quote two other people, two other creators, Ursula Le Guin said in the introduction to Left Hand of Darkness, everything you see in genre fiction is a metaphor. The future in science fiction is a metaphor. Other worlds are metaphors. Monsters are metaphors for things around us. We're always telling the story of our own lives. We're always telling the story of our own times. And I think one of the reasons why there are so many post-apocalyptic movies around at the moment is because it feels like we're living through the end of the world. The apocalypse feels like, it feels like reportage. And Colin McCarthy, our director, said to me very early on, even before we started working on Girl with All the Gifts together, when Cami first introduced me to him, he said, all the great monsters, all of the enduring monsters, the monsters that people keep going back to, are actually mirrors. You go back to them because you see yourself there. And that the amazing thing about zombies, I think, is that they're a mirror that's infinitely adaptable at different times. They've meant very different things. You can keep on going back to them and using them, putting them to different uses. What we're seeing now is Zombie 2.0. It used to be that zombie stories were just the story of the apocalypse, the changeover, the change in society. But I think what we're seeing now is stories that increasingly have the zombie apocalypse has happened somewhere over here, and you're focusing in on something different. In our case, the story of the relationship between a young girl and a woman, which becomes a kind of quasi-parental relationship.
Yes, and actually, sorry if I may, because it's sort of connected to the point you made earlier about the politics and the message in the film. A really strong element that was very important to all of us was the effect of human beings on the environment. And all the locations we went to had been abandoned for 10, 15, 20 years, and nature was doing absolutely brilliantly. And this felt like an incredibly strong backdrop for our story. It's not just a shoot-'em-up zombie movie. It was a way for us to say, you know what, if we all disappeared tomorrow, planet Earth would be doing absolutely brilliantly. And one of the strong messages we had is this rhetoric of always saying, the planet is in trouble. The planet is not in trouble. We're in trouble. It's just we always disassociate it by saying it's about the planet. It's not. If we disappeared tomorrow, everything would carry on as per, only it would be lush and green and verdant and beautiful. And all the locations we went to were like that. And I think that's what I meant about the locations felt really real for actors, because you guys have never been to places like that before. And we shot in June and everything was just so lush and wonderful and devoid of humans, and there was something really unusual about that working environment.
Yeah, there's a bunch of signs throughout the film of human arrogance, but destroyed, like a certain karmic. I don't know if I should cite it. I don't know if it's a partner of the production, but and I wanted to ask you how you thought about this fungus.
Of your cordyceps.
Unilateralis.
We decided very early on that we wouldn't just, because in the short story I just have, it's a virus, there's a zombie virus, don't ask questions. Colin said, we're not going to get away with that, we need something specific, and ideally it needs to be something that no one's used before. So I flashed back to the David Attenborough documentary series, The Secret Life of Plants, and there's a sequence in that where an ant is infected with Ophiocordyceps. It's the most astonishing organism, incredibly narrowly adaptive. There are 300 different species of Ophiocordyceps, and every one of them attacks a different species of insect. And what they do is the spores get inside the insect, and they are neural hijackers. They take over the nervous system of the insect and they make it go to a specific place, usually somewhere very, very high up, and then anchor itself so that the spores will spread further when it dies. So all we did was imagine, suppose there's a species of Ophiocordyceps that's adapted to infect humanity, and everything else follows from that. It's actually scarily plausible, I think.
That's why I like the script, because it could happen, and there is scientific backup. It's kind of like a warning, isn't it?
It is very much that.
Hi, Thomas Gerber from